So there's been a lot going on with
Yes.
Portland, Chicago,
Oh, I thought you were just
the
gonna say with everything,
with
because
well,
that's how
with
I feel
everything.
with
Yes, with
everything.
everything. But in particular, in regards to Portland and Chicago and
Mhm,
Trump calling the National Guard to each of these cities. Now, initially, it was going to be the National Guard of those states. Then, so federal judges issued injunctions blocking guard deployments for Oregon and California and initially Illinois.
mhm.
Then Trump was like, okay, fine. So I can't use your National Guard and I can't use Texas' National Guard. Let's use, I'm sorry, California's National Guard. Let's use Texas National Guard, which is
Mhm.
very different. Like, I actually can't think of a single time that I have heard of the National Guard from a different state going into another
Mhm.
state in order to enforce or do federal protection.
Yeah.
But right now, they're up to 400 Texas Guard troops on a 60-day mission that arrived in Illinois just a few days ago. And they're currently staged there because the federal judge that said you cannot use any of this National Guard, also saw this kind of workaround that the administration was saying or using and also said, oh, well, but I see what you're doing. You also can't have Texas National Guard. So right now, the administration or the president has them staged just outside of Chicago because they
Mhm.
are appealing that. Because if we remember from what happened in California, the initial ruling was an injunction on the National Guard,
Right.
and then it was overturned because the president has the right to use federal enforcement or federal, like National Guard or federal agents to protect other federal agents in the enforcement
Yes.
of federal law and also federal facilities, which
Yes.
is the crux of this entire issue here
Yes.
is that federal law is not being enforced and also agents and federal facilities are getting attacked.
Yeah. And those are
So,
just, like, actual facts. You can take those to the bank, and so when governors stand up there and try and mislead and gaslight, I don't even think it's gaslighting, like, they're literally just lying to the people that are listening to them that something that Trump is doing right now is illegal. That is false.
yeah.
He is not rising above his pay grade. He's not trying to do something that's against federal rule. He's not. And so just keep that in your back pocket, especially when people try and use the words authoritarian. Um, to be authoritarian, you are writing your own rules, and he is not. He's just abiding by the rules of the
Well,
game.
and I
They don't have to
think
like it, which they
mhm.
obviously don't like it, but
Well, one of the challenges that we're facing here is that we have gone through what is it? Like a decade or over a decade of
mhm.
lax enforcement when it comes to
Yes.
federal laws, specifically when it comes to illegal immigration.
Right.
And the previous administration completely basically went hands off. Then
Right.
on top of that, this idea of a sanctuary city, which
Mhm.
initially began as, look, we don't want criminality happening in our city. And
Yeah.
then people who are here undocumented or illegally or whatever, however you want to describe it, not wanting to participate in, calling or, not calling the police or help with an investigation because they're afraid that they're going to be deported. We want to be able to communicate with these people so they can be safe and it doesn't
Yep.
allow criminality to fester. That was the initial idea of these sanctuary cities. But that, as usual, whenever you start to like give caveats and ignore, it has been abused and expanded. And basically, it created entire welfare systems
Right.
state welfare systems that promoted and incentivized people to come to those states illegally. And
Yes.
now, which then brings criminality from other countries along with
Mhm.
them.
Yeah. Well, it's
Here you
kinda
go.
like when I think
Surprise.
they're mistaking they're being uncomfortable with Trump doing something wrong. It's kinda like in those old Super Nanny, episodes where parents have been allowing their children to misbehave for so long, and then when someone comes in to try and fix it, and Super Nanny's like, "No, you can't do that. These are the consequences," then the parents and the children get really uncomfortable for a while because they've been able to do whatever they want with largely no repercussions. And then when you are fixing a problem, it just hurts a little bit. And that's, I think, what some of these cities and states are having to reckon with. Their policies and their horrible management of their states is now really, really starting to cause problems, and they don't like the solution because they don't like the
Well,
person who's implementing it.
yeah, and we would not be here if the previous administration hadn't let, like, and incentivized millions upon millions of illegal immigrants along
Exactly.
with their criminal counterparts to come
Yes.
into the United States. So,
Yes.
there's a lot of stuff going on. Portland, Chicago, right? Now,
Yep.
in response, we're going back a few days, but the mayor of Chicago signed an executive order. I'm going to play this for you guys. So, I think this is a wild idea and it plays into, I mean, this is just a blatant complete disregard for federal law. Let me play it.
Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out of control administration. The order establishes ICE free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
Okay, so, does he not understand that federal law supersedes state law when, like, that
Mm,
you
mm.
can't do you can't do that. I mean, it's like, um, you can't do that.
I mean, it just seems pretty, like, to me, it's like, it just comes off as made up. It's like,
Well, and it's childish, and they know that none of these reporters are gonna push back and be like, "Well, actually, if people are attacking federal buildings, ICE or, the National Guard has every right to step in and help reinforce the law enforcement that's already there." But does that just not like, does he not know that, or he knows it and he's just, like, putting
well,
together.
I think it's just kinda like how in every other situation where they're just he's testing the waters. He's testing to see if he can do it. I don't see,
Mhm.
like, word of like, if I were to look at the letter of law, he has no jurisdiction, like, he has no right to do that.
Yeah.
As you said, federal law supersedes, now he can be like, you know, where local law enforcement can't assist them or they can't,
Mhm.
but to impede the federal agents from being
Yeah.
able to arrest someone or stage somewhere or anything
Yeah.
along the, I don't see what the argument there for it is, and I'm sure that if a situation arises, it's gonna get challenged.
Of
Um,
course.
I
It's just
did want
childish. That's what it is. This is just childish. Like, I can see all of a sudden I think that's why he made it clear, like, private businesses. Well, I really don't think that the National Guard is going and trying to do anything in private businesses. They're there explicitly to help law enforcement, back up law enforcement when it pertains to, like, federal buildings and whatnot. So, okay, fine. If you wanna make an
but
executive
he
order.
was talking specifically about ICE. So his
I see.
executive
That's
order
right.
is specific to ICE. It has nothing to do with, in which ICE has a right
You
to
can't really, yeah, he can't do
obviously.
that either. I'm very confused by this man.
Well, and I mean, and if you notice, he specifically was saying like stage, and we're not going ice free zones, as in they're not going to be able to stage or they're not going to be able to like pull over and organize or plan anything out by using business parking lot or the parking lots or offices of of city buildings. Like that is, he's trying to impede the ability of them to be able to plan and set up. Because obviously he can't say you can't arrest a person who's on
Illegal
yeah, like an
immigrant, yeah.
illegal person who, because there he has no jurisdiction for that. So, but still, even to say like ICE can't pull over and use a parking lot to.
I wanted there to be someone in that press conference, some, um, journalist who's raised their hand and said, "Okay,
How are you
so
enforcing this?
how does this play out? Are you gonna now pit the law enforcement in your state against ICE if they break your made up rule? Are you going to tell your cops in your state to then go try and arrest an ICE? Like, logically, pull this out
Yeah,
to its conclusion." I wanna know what really is gonna happen here. But I think it's
I
all just
haven't
sound
seen.
bites.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any type of enforcement or anything that's happened as of yet that's supposed to be, like an enforcement of ice free zones.
Well, you're not going to. It's the same when Gavin came out and was like, "Come on, arrest me, bro." It's like, okay, big
But
guy,
what
big tough
has
guy.
one thing that did happen was, I think it was was it at the beginning of this week? The news cycle moves so fast, but
It was like 5 days ago or 5
I
minutes
know.
ago, and you're like, "That
So
must have been last week."
So there was reports of ICE agents being confronted and rammed with a vehicle and having an altercation with two individuals in a vehicle, a man and a
Mhm.
woman, and then having to defend themselves. The woman was shot. Now there's currently some dispute about the sequence of that particular event. However, just because the defense attorney for these two individuals is saying that ICE was the antagonizer, ICE is saying that these two individuals are the
Right.
antagonizer. So, I'm just putting it out there that it is up for debate, and those two individuals have been released since from the moment, like, I think she went to the hospital, got treated, was arrested, and her and her counterpart have since been released.
Yeah.
So they're out on bail. Now, after that event, what happened was that people who were watching reacted and started to swarm the ICE agents or the officers. Or was it ICE? I'm not sure if it was ICE or if it was Border Patrol. Regardless, what ended up happening is that there were reports that it took them 41 minutes to respond and that these agents were becoming overwhelmed and that there was a patrol, I think, what was it? It was a patrol officer, a Chicago patrol officer that gave a chief of patrol. That's what it is.
Mhm.
So the chief of patrol issued a stand down order and said that, like, so when the officers called for assistance,
Mhm.
they were told not to respond. And I actually have a full report here on it to give you the entire summary because there was, I think Bill Malugin, he found, or it was leaked to him, a screenshot of the report and also the dispatch recording on it. So
Mhm.
let's listen to it because then the chief or the superintendent of the Chicago PD responded to this.
We're hearing from a lot of rank-and-file Chicago cops who say that they are outraged that they were ordered to stand down after federal agents were attacked. The communication for the stand down appears to have come from the chief of patrol himself over the communications platform with the Office of Emergency Management and Communication, reading very clearly, no units will respond to this. Multiple police sources have confirmed that that message is authentic, and it is backed up by audio of the stand-down order.
So the chief of patrol clear everybody up. We're not responding over there.
All right, and 999, just to confirm, 39th Place in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending, waving off all the cars heading to 39th Place in Kedzie.
Again, those are the orders we're being given.
Now, the official statement from Chicago Police Department reads, CPD responded to the scene to document the incident. CPD officers were also on the scene to maintain public safety and traffic control. It happened.
But if you look into the reports, it was like 41 minutes before they responded. Now, the superintendent of police did a press conference, and I actually thought this press conference was really interesting because when he opened it up, he was basically telling people, you can't follow federal officers,
Mhm.
or tail them.
Yeah.
You can't pull up next to them. You can't ram them. You can't circle them. You can't do this sort of thing because they have a right to defend themselves if they feel
Right.
like they're under threat. Like he went through
Yeah.
this whole spiel, right?
Mhm.
But then he is asked about the stand down order, and this is the superintendent.
Were CPD officers told by dispatchers to stand down?
Well, I don't know about them being told by dispatchers. There was some communication between boots on the ground, a supervisor, and the chief of patrol. So there was some communication by phone. There was something that was put out there that there was an internal message that came from the chief of patrol. That is absolutely not true. There is no internal message. There was a phone conversation. I'm not sure until we get to our after action all of the exact language that was there, but I have had a conversation with the chief of patrol who was concerned about officers showing up on the scene. The chief of patrol at that time had no information that anyone was in danger. And let me just be clear about one other thing when it comes to these federal agents. These federal agents can handle themselves, all right? We've been out there and we've seen it. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to leave them because we know that they can handle themselves. We need to make sure that we have our officers and enough of them to respond to a scene if they are being surrounded. So were they told to stand down? Our officers were not told to stand down.
That is after the leak of the message that clearly says not to respond and the dispatch audio being released.